Things fired off here. It looks like we're 12 o'clock at the top of the hour, so ring the bell there. So Patty, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
You bet. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Good job. Well, welcome to the September 15th Rotary Club of Newport meeting. And we've got a great program. We've got quite a few announcements, and I want to make a mention of some new members. So happy to have you all here. I just mentioned earlier before we got going, we did have the awards, Rotary District Awards last night. And so for the most part, that was good. And I know that there's seems like there's something else coming. Oh, I guess just a reminder that the big convention is in Houston in June. So we're trying to put a group together. I think the Nelsons are going. I'm interested in going. And if you want to find out more about that, we can talk a little bit more about that. But you would certainly get a good dose of Rotary down in Houston. And it sounds like it's going to be a good time to be had there. So wonderful. So let's start off. Do we have any visiting Rotarians?
I don't know if who would be visiting.
You bet. I generally Ken Franson, I don't see him right off, but he might be the one unless somebody had visited our club before. Okay, how about guests?
Just to let you know, I am inviting Chris Chandler right now, so she'll be joining in a few minutes.
Wonderful. There'd be a good visiting Rotarian right there. Okay, Raina, looks like you've got some guests.
Yes, I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm in 2 meetings today, but I am so pleased to introduce our Rotary Students of the Month. We happen to have twins today for this month, but I'd like to introduce James and Annie Lackey, and I look forward to later in the month when you'll be able to hear all about them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raina. Any other guests on the call other than our program? Not seeing any other hands. Yeah, there's Ken Franson. Ken, welcome. How you doing? Not seeing any other hands raised or big signals there, so we'll move on there. Let's see. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about, and John's going to put up a piece. They've updated it a little bit, but it's the Every Rotarian Every Year. So I wanted to kind of share a couple things about this. And again, that key theme right there, doing good in the world. And I think we can all get behind that, but it brings to mind or made me think about something that I've kind of thought about for about 40 years now. Anytime I've saved money, I always either a piggy bank or a coffee can or a water jug, I always thought about this. And my dad always used to tell me, if you save your money, one day when whatever it is comes along that you want to buy or support or do, you'll have the money. And so that always hits my back of my brain when I think about that. And so I've had a savings account for about 35 years. And often when I call the bank, I'll give them my number and they'll say, well, there must be a few more numbers to that. It's not quite long enough. And I know, I think that's probably it. And then sure enough, they get this big grant. And so, again, that's been a big part of what I've always done. So, I think about a savings account. It doesn't just have to be for knick-knack stuff or the other things. But if we think about Rotary and this as a savings account, we're saving, education, we're saving women and children, we're saving the environment, we're saving, peace and, all those things that we can do good with. So this is a way to, every Rotarian every year was a phrase coined a few years back. And it just gives we used to have a really good presence in this model as a club, as our group. But I'd like to see that get back in place. And so it's an easy way you can either send in, with your information, or you can call and get the, office and talk to somebody directly and make a contribution. But it is something that's a little bit goes a long way. They say $42 a month. You'll have a Paul Harris Fellow recognition in 2 years. That's nice. It's not just for the recognition. It's just also, that gosh, if you can help children smile, help kids have a better outlook on life, help girls, learn or have a better education and be in a better place, or have clean water to drink. I know that's always something that we take for granted. You sit down at a restaurant and you have a glass of water sitting there, but in other countries, water isn't clear and crisp or pristine as we might think of it here. So consider every Rotarian every year, consider Rotary Direct, consider Polio Plus, those different ways to contribute to help support Rotary and doing good, great efforts. Whether you're also a bequest or endowment, ways to add Rotary as a beneficiary also options. So there's no better thing to think about. So I'd like you to join me in saving, and again, not just saving money, but saving for better efforts, better groups. So I think that's a well spent dollar. And again, Rotary Direct or every Rotarian every year. Next, I would like to introduce, or any questions about that? Any thoughts, any questions about that?
Richard, I just want to add the last 2 years, each of those last 2 years, we had 49 of our members that were every year, every Rotarian. 3 years ago, we had 69 of our members, so pretty much everybody. And this year, we haven't really got started because we only have 8.
Yeah, we want to not let my year or this year be a downtrodden year. So not to beat the pulpit, but I certainly wouldn't mind everybody joining the bandwagon here and getting things going. So great on that. I have those forms you can get them from me. I can print them. You can print them, or again, you can talk to Keith. He can give you a phone number or help you out. One way or another, we can definitely help you out. Okay.
Hey, Richard, I'll post those links in an email.
Wonderful. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Makes it really easy, especially this day and age with cybersecurity or being hacked and this and that. You can call them direct. You can have it in place. And again, they encourage people to do account number, not a debit card number, because those expire or get renewed or replaced. So, okay. Any other comments on that? Next, I'd like to take a minute and recognize we've got some new members. We have 5 new members, and I don't know if they're all here, but I just want to say that we want to officially welcome David Adolph, Dawn and Marisa Barrett, Paul Skidema, and Chuck Ellard. So when we recognize that, we basically we're proud. We have a nice plaque. We have a little objective Rotary and a packet that Mark has put together. There's a letter in there from the Rotary International president. There's a directory, just some good stuff. But again, we're proud to accept those individuals as duly vetted and elected members of the Newport, Oregon Rotary Club. So welcome, and we'll get time to where we can let you do a little introduction. I know we have a great program today, and I hadn't planned that or have that on the agenda, but there'll be times where we'll have a little sliver of time and we'll ask you, hey, now's the time you want to take 5 minutes and talk and introduce. And, we want to make sure through COVID and through Zoom that we know each other like we have in the past as meetings and fellowship and sitting across the table for you. So I appreciate all your new members. And again, that wasn't necessarily their objective to grow, but we don't mind. We'll take that. More, our Rotary president says, everyone bring one, and we're well on the way there. So great. Okay, next we're going to have a Rotary Minute or a History Minute, and our new member, Patty Eisler, is going to lead us in that. So go ahead, Patty.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to read something that I pulled from the Rotary International website. And it's because, everyone knows the service above self motto, but I didn't realize that there was another one. And so this is a little bit about where that came from. So service above self and one profits most who serves best are Rotary's official mottos, and they can be traced back to the early days of the organization. In 1911, the second Rotary Convention in Portland, Oregon, approved he profits most who serves best as the Rotary motto. The wording was adapted from the speech of that Rotarian Arthur Frederick Sheldon delivered to the first convention held in Chicago the previous year, Sheldon declared that only the science of right conduct towards others pays. Business is the science of human services. He profits most who serves his fellows best. The Portland gathering also inspired the motto "Service Above Self" during an outing on the Columbia River. Ben Collins, president of Rotary of Minneapolis, Minnesota, talked with the Seattle Rotarian J.E. Pinkham about the proper way to organize a Rotary club, offering the principle his club had adopted: service, not self. Pinkham invited Rotary founder Paul Harris, who also on the trip, to join the conversation. Harris asked Collins to address the convention, and the phrase "service, not self" was met with great enthusiasm. In 1950, Rotary International Convention in Detroit, Michigan, 2 slogans were formally approved as the official mottos of Rotary: "He profits most who serves best," and "Service above self." The 1989 Council on Less, I'm not going to even try and say it. My mouth is dry. Sorry about that. Established "Service above self" as principal motto of Rotary because it best conveys the philosophy and unselfish volunteer services. "He profits most who serves best" was modified to "They profit most who serve best" in 2004, and to its current wording, "One profits most who serves best" in 2010. So I just thought that was interesting because I've been in Rotary for several years and I had never heard that other slogan. So.
Thanks, Patty. I think that's great, and it really recognizes or helps us recognize how we've evolved, and that's what we need to continually do. With where we took out some of the words that might have been particularly to one gender or the other, and I think that's important to continue to do that, especially with the directives and ideals that our current environment. We want to be more inclusive and diverse. Our president is more interested in helping kids and education and literacy and that. So I think that's wonderful to see that. And anything, the only thing that you can rely on is change. That's the most consistent thing in the world is change. So I'm happy to embrace that and to acknowledge that. So thanks again for that, Patty. I also wanted to share just real quickly, we did get a piece from the Lincoln County Health and Health Department, just talked a little bit about some of the current things going on and how the peak or anticipated peak in some of the cases. We know that the shutdown or going back to Zoom it's not the best. It's not what I wished for, but I did strongly vote for it. So I'm glad we were able to do that. Likely our board meeting here coming up in a couple weeks, we'll vote again, talk about that and have it to the membership and see if we can reconvene depending on how things are going. With that, there is pre-COVID testing. There are ways that you can get set up. So reach out to the county and you can find out about that and those things. So any questions about any of that? Okay, going on. Do we have Bob here? Sergeant in Arms Bob, is he in our crew? Don't see him. We may ask Lola to jump in. Is Lola interested in taking part? All right, Lola. I see.
Hello. Good afternoon, Rotarians.
Hello, Lola.
I know I don't have a fun nickname just like Bob. Now, before he went on his illustrious vacation, or the illustrious vacation that was, Bob and I talked about bringing back a sense of good-natured camaraderie and competition between the Ducks and the Beavers this year. And so Freddie, I wasn't watching the TV over the weekend. Was there, anything going on in the Pac-12? Did I miss anything? Usually I keep up on this stuff, but I just felt like it wasn't very important this week.
Pretty good television this weekend, Lola, but I really wanted to save this for Bob. I think it loses some of its luster if we don't.
I would pay happy dollars to watch you say this to Bob. So I think we can press pause on that one as long as you'll give me interest compounded daily.
I will pledge $50 to give when Bob is present.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for that. Anybody else with happy dollars? I can always get out my anniversaries and birthday sheet if I don't have a volunteer. Keith very graciously provided me with that background information. But would anybody like to volunteer before I pick on you? It looks like Guy would. Guy's waving his hand at me. Hey, Guy. And you're gonna need to unmute yourself. You see, there's that red microphone in front. You just got to pick it up and bring it to your lips like this. There we go. Sounds good.
Okay, so I've got like a $5 happy announcement. I have been growing champagne grapes for the last 3 years, and they are now here. And
All right.
they're very small. They're very sweet. They're seedless, and they taste so good. So if anyone wants some cuttings to start your own champagne grapes, come out to sunny Logsdon and I'll get you some cuttings, but they're really good.
All right. Congratulations on that champagne grape harvest. Now, Guy, are these the champagne grapes that they use to make cooks or to make Veuve Clicquot?
I have no idea. I just know they taste good.
You want a glass of water? Maybe not.
Yeah, he would
What?
know. Guy doesn't partake of that stuff except on New Year's Eve, I suppose. Very, very good though. Congratulations. Maybe at our next Seafood and Wine Festival, we'll be able to try some champagne from Guy. That'd be great. Now, Matt, I see you unmuting yourself. Do you want to contest Guy's good news, or do you have some of your own?
No, I just want to fess up before you have to get out your sheet, you know.
Oh, that's wise.
Yeah, so last week, Barb and I celebrated our 38th wedding anniversary. And,
wow,
you know,
38 years.
Yeah, you know, it was being COVID averse, it was takeout night, you know, for our anniversary celebration, but that's all right. We made it festive. So anyway, so I'll be happy to pay $38 for that.
All right, very nice. Congratulations, Matt. And you know, they do say for better or for worse, and I think that applies to our food as well. Excellent. Happy anniversary there. Let's see, anybody else that I'm going to pick on? Oh, birthdays this week. Do I have a birthday this week? Let's see. I missed one last week for Julie Hanrahan, but I think I'm gonna let her slide on that one. We've got some next week. Anybody else volunteering?
Marcia had.
I'm happy, Lola.
Oh, Marcia, I'm happy that you're happy. Why don't you elaborate on that and make everybody happy with us?
Well, I will tell you, appropriately social distanced, of course. I am sitting here in this Rotary meeting with Gretchen Havner. So we're together. So if my picture fades out, it's because we're watching on her big screen. But
That's
I'm $10
fantastic.
happy to be here with Ms. Havner.
$10 for companionship. I'm happy to hear that.
And I will match Marcia's $10. And I'm also $10 happy that the Ducks beat Ohio State.
Is that what happened? Oh my gosh. Oh, color me surprised. Wow, what a great thing to come home to. Okay, so we've got 10 matching dollars for Marcia's happiness and 10 for the Ducks win on the road in Ohio State. Just if any of you remember my new member profile, you'll recall that I was born in the state of Indiana, and I have a very complicated web of football allegiances that's really more predicated on who we don't like than who we do like. And who I don't like is OHIO. So unfortunately for Paul and Michelle, they are Ohio State alumni. I'm going to get the upper hand this week, I think, which is just going to be fantastic. Now, I do see Laura Kimberly is on the call. And I'm going to give her an opportunity to fess up about the birthday in her family that's happening this week. And if not, I'm just going to have to spill the beans myself, Laura. What's going on?
It's Paul's birthday on Friday. He turns 38.
He's turning 28?
28. He's young. he's not approaching 40.
So how happy does that make you, and how happy does it make him?
I'll say it makes us $15 happy.
$15 happy.
And I'll add another
Congratulations.
$5, Lola, because my kids went back to school last week and they didn't get to go last year. And so we're happy about them being able to go. And so far, so good.
Hallelujah. $5 happy for the kids going back and 15 for the birthday makes $20 for the Kimberlys. Thank you very much.
Hi, Lola.
Oh, we've got one more volunteer. Tell me what you're happy about.
Hi, it's Stephanie.
Oh, I recognize that voice anywhere, Stephanie.
Oh, hi, honey.
You've been live on the radio with me.
We've done that. I will probably not be on my Zoom next week because it is my wedding anniversary next Thursday.
And you've been married for 5 years, is that right, Stephanie?
No, 49.
Oh, close to 50 years. My goodness, I must have added that extra O there. What was I thinking? So after 49 years of wedded bliss, what can you tell us works, Stephanie?
He's still breathing.
Congratulations. And how happy does that make you?
I think that would be $49 towards my Paul Harris happy.
Excellent. Congratulations on 49 years of wedded bliss.
Oh, come on now. You can't call it that.
Well, I was rounding up there instead of rounding down.
Well, if we're still around next year, we'll do it again.
And I'll be happy to have that 50-cent piece from you for the coffers here. All
Indeed.
right. Do I see any other volunteers with happy dollars or announcements?
I've got some happy dollars, Lola.
All right. Lay it on me.
So I have always been aligned with the Beavers, and I actually did see, and they did win this last week. It might be the best win of the season. And I'll pay $1 for each point of the spread. So it looks like $18, but great game. And my daughter got to ride over and watch half of it. It was a late night game, but she got to go with the Thompsons and they had a great time. So $18 for the Beavers. Go Beavs.
That's a downright Rotary moment there, Richard. Thanks so much. $18 for the Beavs win. And, unlike other Duck fans, I can really spread the wealth around. And what's good for the Pac-12 is good for all of us. So I think we can all toast to an all Oregon winning weekend for football.
Well said.
All right, looking around, not seeing any last minute volunteers. I'm going to check my handy dandy list one more time to make sure nobody's getting away with murder here. Okay, seeing nothing else and knowing that all of our volunteers have voluntold, I'll hand it back over to Richard. Thanks so much.
Great job, Lola. All right, so next we'd like to invite Diane Nelson to introduce our program. So go ahead, Diane.
Thank you, Richard. Small business owner David Gomberg represents House District 10 in the Oregon legislature. The Central Coast District ranges from Tillamook to Yachats and inland to Sheridan. Representative Gomberg serves as co-vice chair of the Ways and Means Budgeting Committee and co-chair of Transportation and Economic Development. He is a member of the Governor's Commission on Senior Services, the Oregon Innovative Council, the Governor's Small Business Cabinet, and the Ocean Science Trust. Mr. Gomberg describes himself as a professional kite flyer. His company designed and manufactured kites, produced large show kites, and operated web pages and retail stores. He has performed for Walt Disney, the Super Bowl, the London Millennium Celebration, and in 40 different countries. In 2005, he was inducted into the Kite Hall of Fame. David is a graduate of Oregon State, where he earned a bachelor's degree in political science, served as student body president, and earned a master's in political science, economics, and history. He then earned his MBA at Willamette University. Among his awards and accomplishments, he lists his 35 years of marriage to Susan Gomberg. Please help me welcome David Gomberg.
Well, thank you so much, Diane, and thank you, Rotarians. I'm delighted to be with you all today. Although I've got to say, I'm a little saddened that I'm not able to be there with you in person. We're separated for good and prudent reasons, but we know it's not quite the same. And I really want to thank you for all of the good work that you do each and every day. My sprawling district includes a number of Rotary clubs. It wasn't that long ago I got a panicked phone call early on a Saturday morning saying, the Lincoln City Rotary Club wants to put their wreaths together today, and the space that we normally do it in is suddenly not available. And we made our warehouse available to them. And within 45 minutes, Rotarians were pulling up, trucks were arriving, and everybody was putting Rotary wreaths together on the spot. I'm so pleased we were able to be a small part of that great success. Well, our timing today for this meeting is fortuitous, and I'll get into the reasons for that in a couple of minutes. But I want to back up and tell you a little bit about the legislative session that ended at the end of June. And you know that here in Oregon, we have three kinds of legislative sessions. We have what we call the long session, which occurs in odd years like 2021. And we call it the long session because it's about 6 months long. We write laws, we pass a budget, and legislators introduce a lot of different kinds of proposals. On average, about sometimes as many as 4,000 proposals, of which about 500 of them actually become law at the end of that process. The second kind of session we have is the short session, which takes place in alternate years. It's only 1 month long, and we are limited to only 2 bills that we can introduce. And there is no budgeting activity except if we need to do some fine tuning to the budget that was passed previously. And then the third kind of session that we have in Oregon is a special session when it is called by the governor or by a group of legislators for an emergency or a specific purpose. Again, I'll talk about that in just a minute. Each legislative session is, well, remarkable and unique in its own way, but it's no surprise to you to hear that the 2021 session was unlike anything we had ever seen before. You know, we were operating in the middle of a global pandemic with all the distancing that requires, and the committees operating online, and the building closed to the public. And the fact that the building was closed was not without contention. There was one day when people with guns arrived and demanded to be let in. But we had our legislative session coming out of the worst fire season that Oregon had ever seen. I tell people that Labor Day last year, more acres on fire in Oregon than during the entire 10-year period that we refer to as the Tillamook burn. We had just come out of a deadly freeze, and we were concluding the session at the end of or in the middle actually, of a deadly heat wave. So I just want to set that stage to tell you what the session was like for all of us. And the focus of the session was intended to be about wildfire recovery and about response to the pandemic. Although most of the things going on the pandemic front were either coming out of the governor's office and the executive department, or being made locally by county commissions, city councils, and school boards. But I think when we write the history of the 2021 session, it's going to touch on fires. It's certainly going to touch on the pandemic, but it's really going to be all about money. You know, when we started the session, we didn't think we had any money. Businesses were closed, so we weren't getting any individual corporate taxes. People weren't working, so they weren't paying any personal taxes. Our restaurants and taverns were closed, so we weren't selling any lottery tickets. In fact, about the only place we were making any money when we came into session seemed to be with the sale of alcohol and cannabis. Go figure. Although certainly not enough to make up the shortfalls we were expecting in other places. And yet, by the time we concluded the session, we were learning that Oregon's economy was remarkably resilient, and that actually that we were bringing in more money than we had anticipated. People that were doing well were doing very well. People that weren't doing so well were getting unusual supports from the federal government. And in fact, the forecast was so strong that we learned that we had brought in more money than forecasted, more than enough money to pay for our operating expenses, but also additional dollars that would require a portion of those dollars to be returned to Oregon taxpayers. About $1.5 billion are going to be sent back to Oregon taxpayers through the kicker. And I think some of you will know that the kicker is a unique Oregon law that says when you bring in more money than you expect you should, that you have to give the balance of it back to taxpayers. And we send that out as a credit on your taxes rather than sending checks out. You used to get a check in the mail, but it costs about $4 million to prepare and send all those checks. So we decided to save a few bucks and make it a credit on your taxes instead. And so the average Oregonian is going to be getting about $800. Lower income Oregonians getting about $300. Wealthier Oregonians getting anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 in tax credits on their taxes next spring. But in the midst of all of this going on, the federal government announced that they were sending money to Oregon, and they wanted us to invest that in things that we thought were important. So our legislative leadership came up with this unique idea. They said, we're going to invite each representative and each senator to come up with a list of projects they want to spend money on. And the sky's the limit. Tell us what you need funding for, and let's see what people come back to with us. So I put together a list of about a dozen projects here on the Central Coast that I thought were critically important and wouldn't get funded without federal support. But lo and behold, 90 legislators came back with over 1,000 proposals and totaling somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 billion. Now, the federal government sent us about $5 billion, and legislators wanted $30 billion for all these different projects. And legislative leadership said, well, that's not going to work. So then they came up with Plan B, which was, they said each representative is going to get $2 million and each senator is going to get $4 million, and you decide what you want to spend it on. Remember, I had a dozen projects, probably totaling $30 million, and now I only get $2 million. It's kind of like having to decide which of your children you love the most. So I sat down with our state senator, Dick Anderson, and I said, you got 4 million, I've got 2 million, you've got 2 House districts. So how about if we spend half of your 4 million in my House district, and between the two of us, we've got 4 million. And we went through my list and indicated what the priorities are. But I wasn't really satisfied at that point because I had this list and I had a lot of people that were in dire need of financial support. So I decided to take that fuller list and make application for other sources of money in the Capitol. I did that using my knowledge of the fiscal process. I used that relying on relationships that I built while I've been in office with key decision makers. And frankly, I did that using a little bit of guile and audacity. But I submitted our proposals to the Capitol Construction Committee and asked them to fund it with income tax dollars or with lottery bonds. And then I reached out to each of the people who was part of one of these requests, and I coached them on how to testify at the hearing, and then set them up for this special hearing. And it was a 2-hour hearing, and there were about 30 people that got to testify, and a dozen of them were from our district. And people one after another were saying, I'm working with Representative Gomberg on this proposal, and the committee chair was rolling their eye as one person after another was coming forward and saying, I'm House District 10, and here's what we need money for. Well, then we sat back and we waited. And when you wait in the legislature, you just don't sit on your hands. I mean, you continue to monitor the process. You work behind the scenes to try and move these projects forward. But the funding decisions come out on the very last day of session. And when the last day of session, this measure was unveiled, every single one of our projects got funded. That's a remarkable conclusion. To put that in context, 2 years ago, we thought we'd hit a home run when we got about $10 million for projects in House District 10. This time we got more than $60 million, from $10 million to $60 million for projects, which means that we got the money we needed to repair the failing water storage system in Waldport to the tune of about $3 million. Over in on Highway 20, we got $3 million to build a new fire station near Eddyville to support Highway 20. We got money to, goodness, why is the mayor of Newport calling me? I'll call him back. We got money in Toledo to connect the Port of Toledo with the sewage and water system in Toledo, because believe it or not, they were out there doing all their good work at the port and running out of porta potties and having to truck their wastewater from construction away. We got money for them to renovate their swimming pool. And then in Newport, we got money to support the Oregon Coast Aquarium. In Depot Bay, we got money to replace the docks that are failing there, and they were at fear that they didn't have the money to do that. We're going to have to shut down their recreational fishing and whale watching businesses. In Otis, we got $16 million for the water systems that were destroyed during the Echo Mountain fires. We got $12 million for water systems at the port of Tillamook Bay. And we got another $3 million for a career technical education center in Sheridan. And then coming back to Newport, you know, some of you will remember that 2 years ago, we got $4 million to begin the process of replacing our dams on Big Creek. Our main water system in Newport, which is ranked as one of the most seismically vulnerable dams in the entire state. That doesn't mean a big earthquake's going to take it out. It means that I tell people if a big truck hits a pothole, those dams are vulnerable. And just downhill from the dams is a residential community. And then below that is the highway. And if those dams go, it's gonna cost us lives, and it's gonna cost us transportation links, and it's gonna take us a generation to recover. We got the money for that project 2 years ago from lottery bonds. And then because our restaurants were closed, we couldn't sell any lottery bonds. So they canceled the funding and we had to start over. And the city calls me up and said, we want to go after that $4 million again. And I said, no, if we're going to have to start over, I want to do more than just planning and permitting. I want to actually move some dirt around. And I increased the proposal from 4 million to $14 million. And at the end of the process, yes, $14 million got funded for the dams in Newport. I think that's what the mayor was calling me about, because he calls me about once a week to check on when we're actually going to see the checks. So those are some of the things that came out of the long session, and I'm going to be very happy to answer your questions. But I want to come back to where I started and say that our timing is very fortuitous today, because here it is, the end of the week. On Monday morning, I am expected to be in the Oregon State Capitol for a special session. The governor has called us into special session to deal with redistricting. Now, redistricting is the process we go through every 10 years to draw legislative and congressional district boundaries to make sure that they have equal number of people to reflect population shifts and people moving around, and areas that have grown and some areas that have lost population. Normally, we would have completed that during the legislative session, but like everything else going on this year, it was anything but normal. The census data that we rely on was way behind schedule. So we got those numbers about 3 weeks ago. The courts have given us until the 27th of September to complete the redrawing of those lines. The legislative committees went out and had public hearings remotely all around the state. About 2,000 people participated in those hearings. And now we're going to see the final proposals, and we're going to be voting on them, hopefully on Monday morning. There are 3 plans circulating that affect our district. One of them stretches our district further up along the coast in Tillamook County, all the way to Manzanita. One of them stretches us further south. It cuts Tillamook out of the district, stretches us further south all the way to Florence, and then inland to Philomath. And the third plan kind of keeps us pretty much where we are. So those are plans for legislative districts. There are also plans for congressional districts, one of which would put Lincoln County in with the South Coast which is currently represented by Congressman DeFazio. Another plan that would create a new district with Benton, Lincoln, Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia counties that has no incumbent in it. That would be a wide open seat. But in no case, in none of the proposals that are before us, would Congressman Schrader stretch all the way to the beach. So in all likelihood, he will no longer be our representative when the new lines are drawn. So I've been talking for about 10 minutes real quick. I wanted to give you about a half-hour overview of what's been going on so far, but I wanted to squeeze that into 10 minutes so I had lots of time to hear from you and to answer your questions. So where would you like to take this conversation?
Let's see your hands if you got a question for the Representative Gomberg, or just shout out.
Well, while you're waiting to see those hands come up, let me tell you about a new development. The Coastal Caucus, which I chair, that's the representatives and senators that represent coastal districts, has sent a request to Governor Brown asking her to forward a disaster declaration proposal to the federal government for our salmon fleet. And you know that our largest commercial fishing fleet is based in Newport. Here's what's going on. In 2014, salmon landings in Oregon were about $14 million. 2 years later, they had dropped from 14 million to about $4 million. And in 2020, that had continued to decline all the way down to $1.5 million, from 14 million to $1.5 million over the course of just 6 years. Our salmon fleet's in trouble. You can ask what's going on, and the answer is reduced stream flows, warming waters in those streams, ocean acidification, hypoxia, a host of different climatic transition changes that are resulting in reduced salmon runs in much the same way that they've impacted the shellfish industry and our crabbing season. So the folks that catch those fish have been asking for some financial relief to help them while we try and figure out what to do next. We have submitted that proposal. We've asked the governor to forward it to the federal government. And when she does that, and I expect she will, then the Department of Commerce will review it and ask Congress for money that's going to support our salmon industry. But the money's not going to put more fish in the water. It's just going to help the people that catch them. And the industry, as you well know, stretches far beyond the people that go out on the water and catch the fish. It also affects our processors, and it affects the people that sell that fish, whether it's in retail stores or in restaurants. And it affects those of us that eat salmon. So there's a lot going on in the salmon industry, some significant concerning and systemic changes underway. Let's have a good thought for the salmon industry. I'm trying to get them some help as we figure out what to do next, whether it has to do with our hatcheries, whether it has to do with predation, whether it has to do with our dams, figuring out how we can try and get the salmon industry back on its feet. I see the question.
Hi, David. Thank you very much for, dang it.
Mayor calling you too?
No. Thanks for all your help with the Newport issues, and especially with the dam and with that $14 million. I'm hoping that maybe in the next couple of years, we might see some of that. And I know we have a lot of different projects that we're anticipating at the dam. One of my other interests in Newport is the purchase of the watershed. And I'm wondering if you know of any particular agencies or any particular money pots that are available for that, or any process that might be available for purchase of the watershed.
Well,
I think it's so important for the city to own that watershed. I know that a lot of jurisdictions have gone through that process, and I'm just hoping that there might be a way that we can also tap into that as a city.
I think that would be a good thing as well, Councillor. First of all, to your implied question, when do we get the $14 million? Everybody says, thanks for getting the money. When do we see the check? The answer is that we're going to be doing a special lottery bond sale next spring, and we're going to use that to help the people who were approved 2 years ago and reapproved this year. So we should get the first 4 million, which is the old commitment. We should get next spring. And then the
Okay.
normal lottery bond sale would be the following spring. So we'd get the additional $10 million then. I think that timing works for us because we use the first 4 for planning and permitting and the second 10 to start moving dirt around. Now, all of this new money that we brought in came from federal sources, and it was kind of one-time money. But there's more one-time money being talked about, in particular for water infrastructure. I mean, I don't have to tell you, the problem is that we've got these big expenses for water systems, Waldport, Lincoln City, Newport, Depot Bay, and they're more expensive than a small community can pay for. The Big Creek Dam is an $80 million project, and that's if we paid for it all today. God knows what it'll cost next week. But how does a town of 10,000 people pay for an $80 million project? If I'm not mistaken, you've already made some initial investments there to the tune of about $400 for every man, woman, and child in Newport. I'm going to be watching the new allocations of federal one-time money that come in, particularly that is earmarked for water infrastructure. And Newport will be the first call I make if Congress puts any of those dollars out there, because I want to make sure that we've got the ability not only to repair our dams, but also to secure our watersheds.
I appreciate that very much. And if you need any help with anything, let us know. We'll be right behind you. So.
Any other questions or comments for the representative?
I have a question, Representative Gomberg. My name is Dave Heater. We have a huge homeless issue right now in this state, especially if you go to the larger cities. And I believe personally that a large degree of that has to do with mental health issues. And what is the state doing to address first mental health issues and how families can help people within their own family that are suffering from those types of elements? And number 2, what are we doing to stop and repair the homelessness?
Sure. And David, that's got to be the biggest challenge that we're facing, particularly here on the coast. And you're right, it's a combination of issues. It's a combination of people that have mental health challenges. It's also a combination of people that are long-term homeless, and sometimes it's people that just got a bad break. Their landlord decided to sell the property, and they can't find any place new to move to. We've got some real challenges with affordability, particularly with our frontline lower income workers. But I consistently hear from our school district and our hospitals that they make new hires and their new employees can't find a place to live. Goodness, if a doctor can't find a place to live on the Central Coast, what does that say about the challenges for the people that are working at Starbucks or making beds? So to answer your question, there's a number of different things going on. One of them is that we put out a record number of dollars for behavioral health across Oregon from the legislature this last session. And I made a lot of noise because too often these statewide allocations are designed in a way that it's easier for the big cities to get the dollars than it is for our small communities. Particularly when you got a small community that doesn't even have a grant writing department. So that's one thing that's going on. A second thing is that we've also put out a record number of dollars for affordable housing and housing supports. That came through the Transportation and Economic Development Committee that I co-chair, and I was really pleased to put those dollars out there. But there's other things going on as well. One of them is a series of bills, a series of proposals that made it harder for landlords to evict bad tenants. We got rid of no-cause evictions and said that if you have a tenant and you want to make a change, that you have to give them cause for eviction, which takes longer and also may have some enforcement aspects to it rather than giving them a no-cause eviction. I'll tell you, I voted against that bill. I thought it was a bill that was aimed at large landlords, people that owned a number of units, apartment complexes, rather than the kind of mom and pop landlords that we have out here at the coast. And I felt like if we make it harder to be a mom and pop landlord, we make it a lot easier for you to either put your property on the market when prices are sky high, or transfer over to the nightly rental market, which can get you more money in the short run and doesn't have the same kind of regulatory oversight. I voted against that bill. There was another bill that came through sponsored by the Speaker of the House that authorized people to set up homeless camps on any public property. And you've seen some of the results of that in downtown Portland. I voted against that bill. I didn't think it was a good idea to be filling our parks and our roadsides. I thought that we need some more organized systemic improvements rather than that particular kind of approach. That got me in hot water with the speaker, because when you vote no on your boss's bill, and I say boss in quotation marks, there are always consequences to that, but I didn't think it was the right approach. I think that we need to be focusing on mental health, and I think we need to be focusing on affordable housing. I'm pleased to see new apartments coming online here in Newport, and several of them in Lincoln City. I think that's going to be part of the solution, but we got to find a way to address affordability, and it's an ongoing challenge for all of us.
When you say that the legislature increased money for behavioral health, how does that money get dispersed? What is it used for? Is it used for simply research, or does it actually go to mental health facilities to treat patients that can't afford treatment? Or how does that money, what is that money used for?
It's the latter. It's going to go to local service providers for mental health supports. So,
Thank you.
Question, because I was going to move on to Brigitte. I think I saw her hand up.
She had to jump out. She had to go on to another meeting there.
Oh, she was just waving goodbye. Okay.
Any other questions or comments for the representative? I'll just share quickly. I think I've been to dozens and dozens of different events through the community in the last 8 years. And I know David has a term, and I can't quite remember it, but like annoying frequency or something like that. So we're glad you're here, and you know, I think you do a great job, and you present well. You give us the facts and all the things. So, you know, glad you're our advocate and not our opponent. So,
well, that's as it should be. We're not going to agree on everything. You know, my wife is sitting a few feet away. She'll nod when I say she and I don't agree on everything. But we certainly have more in common than we do dividing us. And I think as the divisions in politics in particular get deeper and wider, it's important we remember how much we have in common. I was in Newport on Saturday on the sidewalk in front of the city hall, waving flags to remember 9/11. That was organized by the Lincoln County Republicans. I'm a Democrat. We all care about 9/11, and we care about the people that were hurt there, and the service members that have been working so hard and sacrificing for all of us ever since. I was pleased to join them. But yeah, I try to show up with annoying frequency, Richard. And I also put out a newsletter every Monday morning. I hope that most of you are getting that, and if you don't, that you sign up to receive it, and try very hard to keep people in touch with what's going on a weekly basis, and send me emails if you got questions. We get a lot of email, and we answer all of them, and I read them myself.
Wonderful. Well, and the last bit of thanks here for you is our fight with Rotary as we fight viruses, and particularly polio. We're just 2 countries away from eradicating it. So in your name, we would like to vaccinate 50 children against polio in your name. So just a small token of appreciation for you speaking today.
Great honor. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, next up, let's have a secretary's report. So Jim, I think as I saw him earlier here, take it away, Jim.
Thank you, President O'Hearn. We have 50% organic attendance, 31 out of 62. And notice that 62 number is bigger than it has been. We're growing in membership, and that's a great thing. So 31 out of 62 organic attendance. After applying makeups, we're at 41 out of 63. So up in the 65% range. Again, great attendance. The Zoom meetings may not be ideal for all, but they work better for some. And we're getting good attendance with the Zoom meetings. Membership incentive, Laura Kimberly. Big news this week. The membership incentive winner is here. And so Laura is the proud winner of $15 in membership incentive. Thanks, Mark, for keeping tabs on that and keeping me on track for what the membership incentive is. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sonia for the 50-50 and the big wheel grand prize drawing.
Thank you very much, Jim. All right, so we have $45 in the pot today. I think people were afraid to maybe to let Representative Gomberg know that they have $5 to give, so they didn't jump in so much. But the big winner is going to get $22.50. So let's see who that is going to be. Are you seeing my squeal?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. Looks like Gretchen.
So I'll donate my $22 to my Paul Harris. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. Great job, Tanya. Thanks for the report, Jim. How about social media award, John? Anything to report there?
Yeah, this week's winner is Ken Riley.
Right. All right. Congratulate Ken next time you see him. I don't think he's on the phone here, but they're on the Zoom, but I'm sure he's doing some good work there. All right. Any last minute announcements? Anything else we need to know? Good to the order.
If I can just real quick talk about the Coastbusters Walk that the Rotary is sponsoring. It is going on Saturday, October 9th. Registration starts at 8 a.m. You might have seen in John's email, we are looking for volunteers to help work at the registration table and also set up and clean up. Yep, thank you very much, John. And also, if you have not yet registered to walk at the walk, if you register before Monday morning, you can still get a t-shirt. We don't order the t-shirts until Monday. So even though it doesn't say that you're guaranteed, you are if you order this weekend. So sign up. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Sonia. Thanks for that.
And Richard, I have the speaker for next week.
Go ahead, Diane. Thank you.
Our speaker is a seasoned member spotlight, Jim Walker. So I will reach out to him and verify that he will speak next week.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think we got the report that our greeters will be Dave and Kathy Heater. So we'll continue to incorporate a couple of duties during the meeting there. So we'll welcome them. So with that, let's take, so we have Laura and Patty as our greeters today. Patty did the startup job. Let's have Laura, if she's still here, do the finish job. So Laura, would you like to take us out with a 5-way test?
Sure. Okay. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun?
Yay.
Yay.
All right. See everybody next week. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later now.